Welcome back to the Stretch the Floor podcast. I'm Matthew. I'm here, as always, with Venushan, and this is week 2 of our position by position top 10 rankings. We did our centers last week. It's time for power forwards this week. A lot of talent at the top of the power forward list, but it's going to be interesting to see where both of us think the position stands. Some veterans, some new up and coming guys. Some more defensive focused guys, some more offense focused guys. Anyway, let's get right into it. I'll let you start again. 10, 9, 8, like we always do. Give me your bottom three.
Okay, so my 10 is John Collins, my 9 is Draymond Green, and my 8 is Tobias Harris.
Okay, I have the same three, but I got Draymond at 10, Tobias Harris at 9, and John Collins at 8.
Okay.
This really goes back to kind of what I was just saying. Draymond Green, he's such a zero scoring the ball, but third in defensive player of the year this year. Can average 7 to 9 assists, especially when he's going to be back playing with the Splash Brothers this year. I'm expecting another big season from him. He had a bounce back season this year. The one 2 years ago was a little bit of a down year, but no, he was back to being the old Draymond this year. And I think with just a little bit of minutes management and stuff like that, being back with the offensive talent he's going to be with, I think he's going to look pretty much like the old Draymond, except he's gotten worse as a shooter and as a scorer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but people have to remember this was a career high in assists. Like he had 8.9 assists per game. Like if it wasn't for Jokic doing like the center things, like Draymond would have got a lot more attention. But 8.9 assists, 7 points, 7 rebounds, 1.7 steals. We know how good his defense is, even though he doesn't get that much blocks. But we know, third in defensive player of the year. Like he's not a zero on offense. He's a great playmaker. One of the best playmakers out of that center position. He's good at rebounding the ball. He's good at switching. He's good at defending. He just can't put the ball in the hoop. But it's not his peak years. In 2015, I think that's when he was like peak, when he was scoring like 14 points a game and shooting decently. Obviously, his shots went a little haywire, but the addition of Klay Thompson, Wiggins getting another year under his rep, these new rookies, potentially another superstar joining them, they have the talent to make him. They could definitely get more talent to make the court open up more for Draymond and just be a lot easier. And just the Klay versus Kelly Oubre swap, it's going to be huge because Kelly Oubre was really, really bad at shooting last year. I think people really forget that. He was essentially a non-threat from three, and switching from a no threat from three to Klay Thompson, it's going to help the game a lot. Obviously, Klay's returning Christmas, not the start of the season. So he's obviously going to have to work himself back into shape and all that stuff. But hopefully he returns back to close to like 85%. And Golden State's going to be back being a contender because this guy's that good alongside MVP and an all-star.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like on a team like the Warriors, like Draymond is the perfect third best player. He's not a zero on offense, just scoring the ball. He's a zero. Like offensively, he makes so many things happen that like might not show up on the stat line. But I just prefer. I have John Collins 2 spots ahead of him, just because I love his shooting. You can 19 points a game pretty easily, and I think you can make an argument he's the second best player on the Hawks, on that Hawks team. And he got rewarded with that big contract this offseason.
Yeah, so we'll just switch to John Collins. And the reason I have John Collins lower than you is just because we see these defensive players and we call them zeros on offense. Other than this playoffs, because this playoffs he was around average. Like during regular season and everything else, he's pretty awful on defense. John Collins is. He's really slow-footed. He can't like switch. He's not. I don't want to call him slow-footed. He is an agile player, but he's not great in switches. He's not great at rim protecting, and he did take a dip from his previous 2 years. Like he was averaging 19.5 and 9.8, 21.6 and 10.1, and he dipped down to 17.6 and 7.4. And his assist numbers, didn't see a big jump at all. It's 1.5, 1.2, 2. So his assist numbers didn't improve. He just was less involved in the offense, less involved rebounding, and he wasn't as good of a defender. So I just dropped him down because if you want to show you're the number 2 option, you have to make the man's to your team and, go out there, be consistent. And maybe it was just an abundance of talent that caused this drop off. Maybe it was the Capella addition that caused him to play less
Yeah.
from the rim. But he did have a drop off regular season wise this season. And do you remember a John Collins moment from like the playoffs? Like, do we have a John Collins 40-point game? No, not really.
No.
So he was good. Like he got rewarded because the Hawks were good too, and he was solid, but he didn't have no moment that made him shine like previously.
No, that's a fair point. I just think the Capella edition probably did hurt his like
He's
the
rebounding.
amount of stuff he was getting in the paint and the rebounding stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like you said, he was not horrible defensively in the playoffs when it mattered the most. So that makes
Yeah.
me think that like there's going to be more to come from him, at least defensively. Maybe that was just a fluke. I don't think it was because if you can do it in the playoffs, you can do it in the
You
regular
could do it
season for
anywhere.
sure.
Yeah.
So that's I guess maybe I'm just hoping a little bit because if he's average defensively with the 40%, with how athletic he is and with like how high energy and talented he is, he's like he's one of the better offensive and scoring fours in the league. And then combine that with pretty average at least defense. I think he's
But
deserves that spot.
he for me in the playoffs, he kind of just became a role player though. Like from that
Yeah.
number two that we saw in the regular season, like he only averaged 13.9 points, 8.7 rebounds, less than one assist, less than half a steal, less than one block. Like, was he really better than Clint Capella? I don't know about that. Was he better than Bogdanovich?
Probably
I
not.
don't know about that. So
Yeah.
we're talking about someone who was a number two in the regular season, falling all the way down to like four for the playoffs. And that's with DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish also not being healthy. So, like,
Yeah.
man, this guy really didn't elevate his game. He took a back seat, and I have to respect his like talent and what he did the previous years and during the
Hmm.
regular season. So I'll still give him that number 10 spot, but he just fell down my pecking order because he just
Yeah.
didn't elevate during the
Yeah.
playoffs.
Yeah, that's fair. So I guess we'll talk about the other guy. I have Tobias Harris at 9. You have him at 8.
8 year.
Honestly, like he puts up better production than John Collins. He probably
Mhm.
fits into his team better than John Collins does. He's just the perfect scoring for the perfect third
Yeah.
option for especially on a team like the Sixers there. Maybe it's just John Collins's like just athletic gifts that are making me
Yeah.
put him higher because he's just like such a like an electric athlete as a player. But Tobias Harris honestly probably does deserve to be over John Collins in my list. 39% from three, 19 and a half points a game, 7 boards, 3.5 assists. He's just solid. Like he's not the most
Yeah.
exciting guy. He's just solid.
And this is why I like him because I know a lot of people gave a lot of stuff for the 76ers and like their playoff collapse, but that cannot be put on Tobias Harris because he
No.
elevated his game. 21.8 points, 8.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, one steal, 0.4 blocks, only 1.5 turnovers, 88%, 87.5% from the field free throw line, 51% from 2-point field percentage, and 37% from 3-point percentage. Like this guy
Yeah.
really elevated his game. Only if Ben Simmons was dunking the ball rather than passing, they probably go through. But like he really tried
Yeah.
his best. Him and Embiid really did elevate their games. And coming into the season, he was like, "Oh man, this is an unmovable contract." To be like, "Hey, Tobias Harris, he's maybe a little
Yeah.
bit overpaid, but
Yeah.
it's definitely a movable contract if you wanted to. Like he's definitely an asset now. Like he really proved his value. He really got into the team mold. And he just proved that he's so much better at power forward. Don't force him to
Yeah.
play small forward with Al
Yeah.
Horford and stuff. Like this
Yeah.
guy's a power forward. He's big, he's big bodied, and he's great, man. He's great at shooting, he's great at scoring. He's a decent defender. I wouldn't say he's a positive or a negative. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't really get attacked on
Yeah.
switches or anything. Obviously, having Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid on your team is very helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a decent defender. He's just good at everything. A pretty good scorer with a decent defense.
Yeah. Tobias Harris making 18 to 20 million dollars a year is like
Steal.
probably one of the most loved players in
Yeah.
the league contract wise. Um, but yeah, like he's not gonna explode for like 40-point games, probably not, but he's just like a
Mhm.
solid 18 to 22 every night. He's gonna hit a few
Yeah.
threes. He's gonna play off of the better players on his team.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's just super solid and yeah, maybe slightly overpaid, but I mean that's good for him for
Yeah.
getting that contract, right?
Yeah. Contracts shouldn't play a value
No.
in like rankings and stuff. It just
Yeah.
players are not going to like players because they're like, oh, they don't
Yeah.
make up to their contract
Yeah.
value, right? That's why players on like rookie deals are so beloved because they're always outperforming their deals. But
Yeah.
it is what it is, man. Tobias Harris is great. If he gets a scoring point guard, the Sixers actually get a shooting point guard like that could score. The 76ers are back in contention and right under that Nets team.
Yeah, totally. Do you want to talk about honorable mentions before we go on to the next three, or
Yeah,
do you
so
even
I
have
had
any?
like Jonathan Isaac and Aaron Gordon
Same.
as
I
like
have the same
power
too.
forwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exact same.
Isaac is great defensively. He could definitely move into this tier, but yeah, we have to see him play games.
We got to
That's
see him
probably
play
why
some
we,
games.
yeah,
And for some reason I thought he was scoring a lot more than he did. He only averaged like
no,
12 and a half points a game or something.
yeah,
But the defensive versatility and shot blocking is amazing. The shooting is good, and let's just hope he can get healthy and back at it. Aaron Gordon, perfect fit with Denver.
yeah,
Absolutely amazing playing off Jokic. Defending is the fourth option. I don't know if he's going to be able to put up the numbers to get into the top 10, but like
probably not.
impact wise, he might be like a top 10 power forward.
Yeah, like he's just someone who's just gonna do his role, and he's good at his role, and he definitely deserves a mention for that. But yeah, he's just someone who's not gonna get the opportunity to really elevate himself like the other 10 guys here.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the next tier, 7-6-5. I guess I'll go first. I got Domantas Sabonis at 7, Julius Randle at 6, and I got Pascal Siakam as 5.
Okay, that's a little homer pick because I have Pascal Siakam at 7,
Really?
Sabonis at 6, and Randall at 5.
Wow.
Randall just had an All NBA second team appearance. I think we have to give him that credit and put him there.
That's okay. I guess we'll do Randall. That's a good point, but I mean, where else have we seen a player get a second team All NBA appearance and then completely fizzle in the playoffs and everyone kind of questioning how good they actually are as a first option on a team? We've seen that before somewhere. So I think if we're going to give Pascal that treatment, I think it's only fair to give Randall that treatment too.
Yeah, but Randall's stats, I think people have to realize like how good it was last year. Like it was actually ridiculous. Like he put up 24.1 points, 10.2 rebounds, 6 assists. Like people don't realize how much he was playmaking. 0.9 steals, and then he also shot 81% from the free throw line. He shot what? An effective field goal percentage of 51.6. He shot 47% from the 2-point percentage, and he shot 41% from the 3-point percentage on 5.5 attempts.
No.
Like he was just a sniper from 3. And then people say he fizzled out in the playoffs. He was still 18, 11, and 4. Like he wasn't not putting up numbers. He just wasn't doing it at the efficiency that he was doing it during the regular season. And is that really his fault? Like we seen him getting doubled. There are no playmaking point guard and whatever. And we knew that was going to happen come playoff time. That's why they brought in Kemba. They brought in more shot creation and Evan Fournier and all that stuff. So I think you have to give him that nod for this year at least, just because of how good he was. I think even at 5, well, we probably both have Zion in one of our top 4s. I think even at 5 is kind of like a little disrespectful for him, but we have to give him his credit. I did knock him for the playoff performance. That's why he's at 5 instead of 4. But man, he was so good. He carried a team to a top 4 seeding. He won MIP. Like he did everything he could. I think he has to be a top 5 power forward.
I'm with you. It's just do you want to do Pascal now, or do you want to?
Let's finish Randall.
Okay, let's finish Randall. Yeah, I mean Randall was 24, 10, and 6 on 41% from 3. Unbelievable regular season. And in the playoffs, like you said, it wasn't really his fault because you could just double him. The Knicks were never at any point a good half court scoring team offensively. And that's what you have to do in the playoffs. So obviously it was rough. But I don't know. I think the Pascal Siakam criticism has gone a little too far. I don't know if you want to get into that now, but
let's go into that first.
Now. All right, so let's talk about Pascal Siakam. Like I said, I think the criticism has gone a little too far. Like I brought up 2 years ago, in the season 2 years ago, he was amazing, as good as Randall was this past year. And then he hurt his groin in like February, March, right before the shutdown, and he was never really the same for the few weeks after that. And then the shutdown happened, 5 months off, no one had access to NBA facilities, but he had access to like no facilities. He said he didn't dribble a basketball for 5 months or 3 months or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the bubble happens. He was horrible in the bubble. But like we've talked about before, he's a guy who feeds off crowd energy. And being in that bubble could not have been good for him. And I also don't think it's fair to judge anyone's physical or mental state in August of 2020. It's not fair. Anyone in the world. And then short turnaround to this this past season, not playing in Toronto, no fans in Tampa. We don't know how his conditioning was because it was a short turnaround, and then gets COVID, loses 15 pounds, and then hurts his shoulder.
Injury.
So his shooting was horrible last year, but that's partly due to that shoulder injury. But he still put up a 21-7 and 4.5. When he's fully healthy, he's getting to 23 points pretty easily. He's playing really good team defense. He's shooting 35, 36% from three. He's scoring in the paint, scoring in transition, just being a really high energy player. Obviously, asking him to create shots in the half court from the perimeter is not his strong suit. But we've seen other guys like Giannis, even in the playoffs, get exposed with stuff like that. So I think it's gone a little too far. I think when he is back and fully healthy, hopefully they just let him completely heal from the surgery, bring him back, even if it's like January, just bring him back then. I think he's going to be back to being like a 23, 7 and 5 guy. I really do.
Yeah, so he's expected to be back mid-November, so 5 months from his June injury, June surgery, I mean. And he was like you said, he was a 21, 7 and 4.5 assist guy, still with a shoulder injury and losing 15 pounds from COVID. So he's definitely going to improve significantly this next coming year. And he's going to have actual like minute help. Like he doesn't need to be on the court 24/7, right?
Yeah.
You have Boucher, you have Barnes, so someone that could, you could minute manage him for the first couple months while he's, coming back from that injury. And he's going to be huge for the Raptors. He's the key to holding them, like pushing them into that playoff race. Because when he's back, you have another 20-point scorer, and the offense is going to be so much better. People underestimate him. I think if you don't have him in the top 10, you're crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Like we're talking about 7 and 5. Like he's easily a top 10 power forward. He's still all-star caliber. He's still all NBA caliber. And that I think front offices realize that, right? Because that's why so much front offices are interested in him. That's why so much our front office is interested in him. That's why I think Raptors fans realize how good he is. His game, his shooting, and like his playmaking. And like we said, energy. I think that's what people don't realize. Like players feed off energy, positive energy and stuff like that. Playing in Toronto when the crowd's cheering for you finally after 600 days? 600 days since they played in ACC. So when he's playing in Toronto, feeding off that crowd energy, feeding off that excitement, he's going to be a lot better. And he's going to be, I think he's going to be better than his 22.9 that he averaged in 2019-20. I think he could easily be a 24, pushing 25 point scoring. And I think that's what he will be for the Raptors next year. I just question his rebounding because with Birch, he's going to have to take that rebounding jump because right now he's a consistent like 6.9, 7.3, and 7.2, right? So he's a consistent like 7.7 rebounds a game. Maybe he makes a jump there too, but we got to see. He's going to have a big year, and this is his year to jump back into that like Tatum conversation, right? Top 5, top 4, top 3 conversation. So I hope he does it, man. As Raptors fans, I hope he does it, and I feel like he can.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. He's not going to make the All-Star team because he's going to miss too much time early in the season. He's not going to make the All-NBA team, but that actually might be good for him. Just not have to worry about that, and like not have to be like, oh, I have to get back to being an All-Star this year, right? Just play his game, and I think he's going to be better than 2 years ago. Like, I wouldn't be shocked with 25 points a game. Like, I think I honestly would not be shocked. Like the playmaking jump too last year, as much of a down year as it was for him, and it was a down year. We saw a really big playmaking jump, just making really good passes, feeding his teammates for threes and stuff like that. Even playmaking in transition. When he's back to being fully conditioned, gaining that 15 pounds back, and he's actually able to score inside and be more aggressive and play with that energy we know he can play with, when he gets his physical self back, I think we're going to see a much better season and an All NBA caliber season this year. I
Yeah.
think he's still a star.
Yeah, and the thing for him this year is he's gonna sit out like little first part, so he's gonna know his exact role, right? He's gonna know, oh, this team needs a little more playmaking. This team needs a little more
Yeah.
post work. This team needs a little more help on the rebounding end. This
Mm-hmm.
team needs a 2B defender, then alongside OG and Barnes. And this team kind of needs a small ball five help to close the game. He's gonna know all his like bullet points
Right.
of what he needs to bring in for this season for the team to be successful. He is one of the leaders this year. I know everyone's just pushing it onto Freddie, but it is also going to be Siakam. Like those are the two guys who were there for the championship run, who played major roles for the championship run. Obviously, OG was there too, but he was injured during that playoff run. So those are the championships. Those are the guys who are there. Those are the guys who have that success, who know what it takes, who knows what sacrifices they need to make, and they also understand that hey, this Barnes kid, this Flynn off the bench, these guys have to play important roles like we played for Lowry and Kawhi for us to be successful. So they're gonna know how to motivate them and get their heads into the game and stuff like that. So this Raptors team is gonna be a lot better than people expect, and they could easily be in that 8-7 range.
Yeah, and that's a very good point because although some people are thinking Barnes being drafted is like a replacement or a redundancy position wise, it might be a good thing for Pascal because when he took on first option responsibilities, he obviously took a step back as being an on-ball defender. So if he can not even be guarding the best power forward or the second best power or wing on the team, and Barnes can take that responsibility at some point in the season, and Pascal can just be almost like a Giannis type free safety, just kind of doing his thing and playing with energy.
Yeah,
it might be really good for him, and maybe that conditioning is a lot better, as the season goes on.
Yeah, and I think Barnes could close at that center spot, right? 6'9" with a 7'2" wingspan, who's already pushing 240. Like he could definitely close at that center spot, and we could see a closing lineup of Freddie, Gary Trent Jr., OG, Siakam, and then Barnes closing at that center spot. That team's just gonna switch everything, be super energetic, and like the media is discounting them, like other fan bases are discounting them, but organizations and players aren't discounting them. We know they're gonna put the respect on the Raptors, and it's gonna be a fun season to come, man.
Yeah, the amount of different looks defensively that they can throw at teams is gonna be insane. Like they imagine that lineup you said with those three wings, but put in like Utah Watanabe or Boucher or something like that. You can literally have 5 guys between 6'7" and 6'11" that can switch everything and pretty much all shoot, all dribble, pass.
Yeah.
It's gonna be really, really fun to see. So let's go on to the other guys. Sabonis. I had him at 7. You had him at 6.
Yeah.
I love Sabonis. He's 20, 12, and 7, almost a triple double, kind of Jokic light. Really, really fun to watch. The only reason I have him a little bit lower in my list, well, there's 2 reasons, kind of. I think he's a little bit out of like between positions,
out of position,
both offensively and defensively. Like he doesn't shoot well enough to be like a 4. He's only 26% from 3, and then defensively, he's too slow to guard wings, but not good enough to be the anchor and rim protector of a defense. So he's a little bit caught between positions. I guess it helps playing beside a shooting center in Miles Turner, but still.
I think you have to move to a center spot. Like we've seen teams be successful with Jokic, kind of building a team around him and shining around him. So I think you have to move him to that center spot. You have to let him be the anchor, be the main guy. And I think when O'Shea Brisket was playing, he was doing it pretty well too, as like a small ball center. So Domantas Sabonis was a center, but Brisket was playing a small ball center, but he was like 6'7" guard that was just switching around, forward that was just switching around, helping Sabonis down in the paint. So if you get someone like that in alongside Sabonis, his numbers are going to just improve massively. But he's probably the second best rebounding power forward.
Yeah.
At 12. Like people really underestimate how good he is at rebounding.
Yeah.
Like he definitely brings it there.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And he's not like Giannis and Davis, you think of the 2 best rebounding 4s, and they're just athletic freaks. Sabonis is not that at all. He's
that crazy,
and he's not that as nearly as athletic as them. So yeah, his rebounding is amazing. And like we talked about last podcast, it probably takes 3 rebounds a game away from Miles Turner.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think what needs to happen for him to go up in the power
take that
forward
next
rankings,
jump.
I don't think it's possible. I think he's going to go up in the center rankings because he needs
Yeah,
to become a center in order to really take advantage of what he can do. Yeah, you might see a little bit of a him being like quote unquote exposed defensively, but I think if
you
you can
can
do it
get
with
help.
Jokic with the help that he has around him, I think you can definitely
Mhm.
do it with Sabonis.
Yeah, and if you give him a full off season, tell him, hey, this next season you're going to be playing center. He's going to, do what's right for his body, maybe gain a little bit of muscle, maybe gain a little bit of weight, and he'll be able to adjust correctly. But I hope they experiment this year and they see if they can do this two center lineup, which they
Yeah.
probably can't. And I hope next year they really make that push because I think Sabonis, if we have a quick look at our center list, like I think he could be up there with like Cat and Bam for like the number 3 center, right? Like I think he's that
Yeah.
good.
No, me too.
So I think he could really push top 3 centers. And I think it's going to really push the Pacers ceiling too. So
Yeah,
I think it's a
agreed.
switch that just has to happen.
Agreed. And you can get a pretty decent return for Miles Turner, I think,
Oh, really
if you
good
decide
return.
to go
Yeah.
that way. Also, I think he can shoot better than 26% from three. Like
Yeah.
I think he could.
Yeah. It's probably hard because, he has another big on his team.
Right.
He has a bunch of non shooters on his team. So the spacing, the attention is a lot higher.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's go into the top four. I guess I'll let you go first. I think we're gonna have the same order, but you go first.
Okay. So at 4, I have Zion. At 3, I have Anthony Davis. At 2, I have Giannis. And at 1, I have KD.
Yeah, that's the only order I think is
Order.
possible.
Yeah.
Zion Williamson,
Yeah.
crazy that he's already up at number 4, but I think he has to be there. Davis, and then yeah, Giannis, Durant. Let's just talk about Zion. 27 points, 7 boards, and 4 assists a game last year, 61% from the field, and actually shot 70% from the line, which is really good for him. Still a
Yeah.
complete non-shooter as a 3-point shooter, even as a mid-range shooter. Still a problem defensively, but I also don't think that they've quite figured out the right lineup to put around him. Maybe hopefully it'll be a little bit better this year. But again, I think once you find the right guys to put around him, once he gets up to NBA speed defensively, he's going to be at least a passable defender. And then with what he brings offensively, man, it's crazy.
Yeah, he's literally putting up like shock numbers. Like
Yeah.
that's nowhere else to describe it. Like the efficiency he's putting it at and the amount of points he's putting it at is only comparable to Shaq. And man, he's just insane. He's literally a 6'6", like Shaq. Like he's so good at scoring. He's decent at playmaking too. 3.7 assists. I think people really like overshadow that. Playing next to finally a kind of a shooting big in Jonas Valanciunas. Devontae Graham is going to be shooting from the point guard spot. We know Brandon Ingram's a decent shooter. I think Nikhil Alexander-Walker starts at the shooting guard spot. Let Josh Hart come off that bench. Nikhil Alexander is a pretty good shooter. Kira Lewis and Josh Hart and Trey Murphy off the bench, passable shooters. So what does that mean? You finally have Zion in shooting, and going from Steven Adams, Bledsoe, even Lonzo Ball, like going from all those guys to these like shooters, or these guys who are at least going to be respected from the 3-point line. Like we could easily see a 30-point,
Oh
30
yeah,
point season. Like
totally.
if he gets 30, and I can see that rebounding take a huge jump too, because Jonas is just going to be out at the 3-point line on the offense. So that's going to allow a lot of offensive rebounding capabilities for Zion, who only got 2.7 offensive rebounds last year, which is decent, but we could see that take a jump to like 3, 4.
Sure.
So we could see like a 30 and 10 type season next year. And I think the Pelicans could be really pushing for that play-in spot.
Yeah, no, I agree. Giannis is probably the most unstoppable force in the league, and then
Yeah.
Zion is probably number 2.
Yeah,
Maybe
crazy.
LeBron, a fully healthy LeBron might be ahead of him, but
Yeah.
it's insane at his age to be putting up an easy 27, 61% from the field. He doesn't take any
Yeah.
bad shots. You just can't stop him. And I will say that it's going to take a little more than that for him to get to the level of being like the best player on a championship team, because we see Giannis, like as unstoppable as he is in the paint, he needs to be able to shoot a little bit, and they
Yeah.
wouldn't have won the championship if he weren't what he is defensively. So as amazing as Zion is at what he does, he will need to round out his game a little bit. But that's going to come for sure.
Yeah. And I think just having a more fluid game, like offensively. Like
Yeah.
when he just has like that more spacing and stuff, he's gonna have more energy to output on the defensive end.
Yeah.
And we could see a huge, I don't want to say a huge playmaking increase, but we can see a playmaking increase just because now if people kick for a double, right?
Right.
If you throw it to a Jonas in the corner, like that's going to be easy 3 points and easy assists for Zion to get. So we could see that assist just going up from like his teammates hitting threes. So that's going to be good too. And yeah, it's just his defense. I think his defense is what separates him from 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Like that's how good he is on offense already, that he's up there with KD, Giannis, and Anthony Davis. But yeah, once he gets that defense in check, once he becomes at least like passable on the defensive end, he could really go with those MVP candidates and stuff.
Yeah, and I think he will get there because we saw in the shorter college season with fewer games, the games are also a little bit shorter. He's trying a lot harder. We saw him flying around blocking shots on the perimeter. So I think he might have to cut a little bit of weight. Obviously, it seems like it's hard for him to do that, just his body type. But once his conditioning gets better, maybe just like getting better like management from the coaching staff, minutes management and stuff like that with the team he has around him, I think he will get there. Yeah, but the top 4 power forward in your third year ahead of guys like Pascal and the season Randall had, Domantas Sabonis, and crazy. In fact had a better season than Anthony Davis, like by a way better season than Anthony Davis. It's insane. It's just amazing.
Yeah, that's why him and Luka Doncic and Giannis are the new face of the league, man, for the future to come.
Yeah, and Trae Young.
Trae Young too,
for sure, up there. Okay, so let's talk about Davis. A little bit of a down year, right? He only 22 and 8 this year, less than 50% from the field, 26% from 3. Obviously, started slow and then battled injuries. We know who Anthony Davis is, but what was a debate between him and Giannis is no longer, at least for now, a debate. Coming off the season that Giannis had and the season that Davis had, but I'm expecting him to get right back to who he can be this coming season.
Yeah, before it was like 1, 2, 3 was like a mesh, and now it's like 3 and 4 are a mesh, then rather like 1 and 2 are a mesh, right? Like he's closer to Zion than he is to Giannis and Kevin Durant, and the reason for that is probably just injuries. I don't want to really chalk it up to anything else because
nothing more.
The 3 years, like the 4 years before that, he was 28, 28, 25.9, and 26. And he had a championship in one of those years too. So like he's amazing. And he had like the defensive player of the year second in that year too. So he's still my defensive player of the year candidate and my pick for this next upcoming year. I expect him to average 25 again. I expect his rebounding to go career high in rebounding. I expect him to have at least like 12, which was he had before. So it's a huge bounce back year. He's my bounce back player of the year, my defensive player of the year pick. Like I think he's going to be huge. It was just health. He just wasn't nowhere near healthy last year.
Yeah, that's it. Other than health, the only thing I would say is like Giannis, like he's going to leave his mark on the game. He's going to get his 28, his 30 or die trying. Sometimes Davis can be like a little passive. Sometimes he doesn't look for a shot as much as he can. And he's so talented and such a freak that if he did that, he could average 30 if he really wanted to, even in the playoffs. So maybe just a little bit more aggressive. But other than that, like it's talent-wise, it's pretty much a wash between him and Giannis. It's just Giannis is coming off of winning a Finals MVP and a championship, and Davis is coming off a down year with injuries where they got bounced in the playoffs. So
yeah, and he's only 27, so hopefully the 33-year-old Westbrook and like 36-year-old LeBron James is like pushing him the ball and saying, "Hey, score."
Yeah.
So I hope he really has come back. But switching to Giannis, in the last 12 months, Giannis has won MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, All-Star MVP, NBA championship, Finals MVP, and been an All-NBA first team player twice. This guy won everything in the last 12 months, like literally everything. And the reason we have Kevin Durant, we just think Kevin Durant's the best player in the world, like his shot and everything. But man, Giannis is right there. Like it's really close. Like it's 1A, 1B rather than really 1, 2. If you said Giannis, I'd been like, hey, I really can't argue that, right? If I said Giannis, you would have been like, hey, I really can't argue that after that 12 months that he just had, right? But yeah, man, it's crazy. Like for a 26-year-old to have this resume, it's one of the best resumes a 26-year-old has ever had.
Yeah, it's got to be right up there with I don't know off the top of my head, but
Jordan.
it's
Yeah.
got to be up there with 26-year-old resumes.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see Giannis with that monkey off his back, that championship monkey finally off his back. There's going to be, playing loose without the pressure. Maybe the free throw shooting, maybe the shooting goes up. Like one of these days, like we know and players know that he's hitting these jump shots in practice. One of these days, they're going to start going in games, and when that happens, it's going to be scary. Like it's going to be terrifying. So like he's only 26 and he's just entering his athletic prime. I don't even want to guess at what we're going to see from him over the next 5 years, but it's going to be insane.
Yeah, and the one thing I want to know is his free throw percentage. Like he shot 77, 76% before in his career.
Yeah.
And these like last two like MVP years have been down at like 63, 69. But after that, game 6 performance when he had 50 points and he shot like 90% from the line.
Yeah.
Having that championship off his back, having the MVPs off his back, having the defensive player of the years off his back, All-Star, MVPs off his back, all that stuff off his back. Yeah. I could really see that 77 coming back, and that results in what, like 2-3 points more per game.
Yeah.
And that could push him into that 30-point range. He's already averaging above 10 rebounds per game. So he's been crazy there. And he shoots a crazy effective field goal percentage. Like for a bad 3-point shooter, he still shoots 3 a game and gets 30%. Like,
yeah,
if that goes up like 2-3%, like we're talking about a passable 3-point shooter, right? So he's the best 26-year-old in the league. He's the face of the league after LeBron James and like Curry, right? Like he's the future of the league, him, Luka. So it's gonna be very fun to see the next decade of Giannis Antetokounmpo.
And if he retired today, he's probably Hall of Famer.
Like, easily, yeah.
Easily Hall of Famer at 26 years old, which is ridiculous. So let's talk about Kevin Durant, who is the best player in the world. I think we both agree.
Yeah.
He had a hard time in the playoffs because it was only him and a bunch of injured people. Coming off that Achilles injury, we can add him to that list of 2, him and Dominique Wilkins, who are the only players to ever come back and be themselves off that Achilles injury. The most unstoppable scorer, shooter in the league. Was still good defensively. There's just nothing you can't say too much about him. He's just the best player in the world.
Yeah, the only thing we want to see him do is we just want to see him play more games. Played 35 this year. 72 regular season. He only played 35, so less than half. So we hope he gets that up a little bit, and because we just want to see him live too. We want to go to Nets games and we want to see him live because he's probably the best scorer ever. He scored 34 points in the playoffs, man. Like what? He was half a foot size away from being finals MVP.
Yeah.
Like what? Like this is insane, man. He's gonna be favored next year. The Nets are. It's gonna be favored to win finals MVP again.
Mm-hmm.
Man, he's just great. Just enjoy his greatness while you get the chance to. Like him and LeBron James, that we're probably gonna talk next week. Just if you see those guys, try to enjoy their greatness all you can because they're just insane.
Just enjoy it because he's probably this much. If his foot is this much behind the line, this much more behind the line, we're talking about MVP. A season where he's coming off of an Achilles. No one really knew how he was going to be. Was like an easy 30, 31 points a game when he played in the regular season. Played the whole playoffs without any help. No James Harden, no Kyrie for like the hardest parts of the playoffs. Probably wins the championship. We're talking about one of the greatest individual seasons of all time.
When winning a championship with no Kyrie for like the second half, on no Harden for the first half, and then only one-legged Harden for the second half.
Yeah.
Like if he won with that mixed match of crew, like you couldn't really say anything. And it would have been his 3rd championship. It really would have pushed him like close to that top 10 NBA players of all time category. You would have that conversation. But I think we still are optimistic that he could still get a couple of those years under him because he's such a long shooter that we could really see him playing for a really long time until like he's 36, 37. So we really hope that we get to see him, and at the end of his career, we can have that. Is Kevin Durant a top 10 player all time conversation?
Yeah. And that game, what was it? Game 4 performance against the Bucks.
50.1.
that 50-point performance, that's one of the greatest playoff performances of the last decade. Like at least that was just
easily.
Unbelievable. But yeah, I just appreciate Kevin Durant's greatness. He interesting. It's going to be interesting to see where Giannis ranks next year. Like I wouldn't rule out Giannis being atop this list next year, but it's going to be obviously hard to do that. The only scenario is maybe Kevin Durant doesn't play half the season again. I don't know. Let's just hope he plays every game. That would be amazing to see. Anyway, so next week we're going to be back with small forwards, which is probably the most stacked position in basketball. The names on that are insane. So that's going to be tons of fun. But until then, thank you guys for listening to this one. This was our top 10 power forwards. In the meantime, before we come back next week, you can check us out on Instagram at Trust the Floor Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, STF Clips, for all the best clips from the podcast. But most importantly, subscribe to the podcast feed on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get them, and leave a 5-star rating and review because it all really helps. And until then, we will see you guys next week, and thank you for listening.